I don't even know how to answer the question about where the idea came from. I've always been attracted to this period. It's I know I wasn't born then, but in the United States, outside of New York, certainly, and maybe even in New York, I don't know, the world was like this until the mid-'80s. And many qualities of it are still there. So a lot of the lines that you hear are things that I have experienced in life, and I do use my real life in there. And the rest of it just requires using your imagination the same way you were to do a period piece about right now. Take 10 years earlier from now, 2000 or something like that. You can look at the media from that time, and you're not really getting a sense of what it is. But people don't change. I mean, they may be capable of individual change, but human behavior has a lot of constants in it. And even when you read the Bible or anything, any old text, you see a lot of human behavior in there, in the depth of selfishness and vanity, and it's not all sin either, joy and love and these kinds of things. So I've basically tried to stay in that realm and use the period of both aspiration that I think existed at that time and the model of advertising in particular, which to me had this great dramatic conflict, and I'm not the first person to recognize that this was a fairly established genre that disappeared, but of this advertising man, the home and the business, someone who has a creative job where they have financial reward. It's always a conflict. And even the question of identity, which is really what I was interested in, as a man, who do I look up to? Who do women look up to? How do men and women interact when they have such incredible predispositions to thinking each other? All that seemed very defined by manners, which the second episode of the show is all about, of the entire show, is all about how it's not polite to talk about yourself. I mean, how much has that changed? And yet at the same time, do we really know anything about each other? So looking at that rule, there's a lot of control over what you're allowed to say and how you're supposed to behave, and none of it is really intersects with what is our natural inclination. So that conflict in itself seemed perfect for a TV show. Television, I've always believed television is a combination of theater and cinema. So there are things, a lot of the story that's moved along by dialogue, and then and the dialogue is satisfying and filled with conflict, and there's a lot of dramatic irony and subtext, which means that in many of the scenes, 95% of them, we know something that the characters in it don't know, that someone's lying or that, whatever. There's always some sense of dramatic irony. And people are not expressing themselves directly, which is also draws you in. The cinema part of it is the silence, and that people realize it's not just some moment to take a look at the person's face after the scene's over, that there's a lot of activity going on in there that's very private, where you know the truth about someone. Just like when you are on your way to a meeting and you pull up in your car and you turn off the engine and the radio runs for a few minutes and then you turn it off and then you walk out into the meeting, you're two different people. The show takes advantage of that, and the movies used to give us more of that. I'm surprised at there being a hierarchy about, I think it's sort of the highest compliment people can give you is that it's like a movie, when I find that you really can't get this in the movies right now. And no fault of their own. They have a whole different set of commercial restraints that I don't have. They're trying to get a much broader audience. They are trying to follow a mathematical formula. It's the only way to get money. And I'm doing my show in a much cheaper way and for a much smaller audience. And it is accidentally, the way many things do when they come that way, had tremendous universal appeal. Really, it was a commitment to risk. And by that I mean to sort of revivify an old form of entertainment, a somewhat forgotten form of entertainment, because these things go in cycles also, like everything else in the world, where the audience tunes in every week. They know these people, but they have no idea what's going to happen. And that kind of entertainment, done on an intimate level, that's very human and true to human nature, and not based on, it sounds degrading to say formula, because I like a lot of formula entertainment. I'm not above procedurals or anything like that. I love stuff like that. But this does not have a formula. It's really rooted in human behavior. Following the organic rhythm of life, even though it's heightened, it is a drama. More happens, and they're more eloquent than anybody you ever met. But that I think is the entertainment value of it. I think that's the secret to its success, is that it resonates with people because they recognize themselves and they're not used to seeing those kinds of people on TV, not for a long time anyway. And then there's this combination of opposites. We're both superior to them because we know what's going to happen, but we're also completely surprised because we have no idea what's going to happen. You never do in life. It's a new show every year. That's been my goal, to make it a new story every year, and people have to get on board with that. And right when this thing starts, you have to get on board with the fact that it's going to be something different, which is horrifying to people. Once something succeeds, you don't really want to mess with it. But I get bored too easily to keep doing the same thing. The third season is about change and about how people respond to change. The times are changing, but also lives change as you get older, and there are consequences for everything that's happened in the past. I think you'll find that we did not pick up where we left off, that things are already in progress, and that there's a powerlessness that's overcome everyone's life, and they can submit to it if they want to, and they're probably going to have to. You don't have a choice a lot of times. Life is not fair. It's definitely one of the continuing themes of the show. And how do people respond to change? Not only personal change, but aging, everything. It's for some people, it's an incredibly exhilarating experience. They hear something new, and for other people, it's terrifying, and they become conservative and scared and angry. So that's the story of the season.